much offense. The bullpen coming in, giving up a lot of hard-hit balls and home runs, continuing to beat this pitching staff. You can just kind of feel that the last little bit of hope kind of sucked out of the stadium here tonight.
Indeed. Red Sox now 75 and 76.
Another night, another loss. Red Sox now under 500 with 11 games to go. 617-779-0985 here on the Baseball Hour. It is a Wednesday. Jimmy Stewart, you know what that means.
Jared Carrabis, the tribal chief of baseball.
Yep, Jared Carrabis, Underdog Fantasy, in studio. We are going to talk about the Red Sox the entire hour, mostly about the offseason. Jared, you want to say hello to your people?
Hello to my people. Tony, do you know what the Red Sox record is right now?
75 and 76.
Do you know what their record was through X amount of games last year?
75 and 76?
That's correct.
So we are 151 games into the season.
Exactly where we were last year.
So this is so perfect, Jared. I couldn't even begin to tell you. I'm so glad you just told me that. Again, 617-779-0985.
Tony, do you know what else is on the table for the Red Sox?
What is, Jimmy?
A last place finish.
Ooh.
So this is... Let me ask you this question in all seriousness.
How do you like that, Boston?
Because I have a theory about this. And Jared, before I even begin, are you enjoying these games right now?
No.
How could you?
How
could you enjoy them?
They haven't called up anyone, so like this would be the time. Actually, you know what? I was talking to Devin Marrero about this last night, about 2015. You bring up 2015 all the time about how they finished. It was a last place season, but they let the kids play in September.
And they played well in the final couple of months.
Right. So Marrero was a part of that group, and he was saying how everyone was they had all played together in the minor leagues before, and they knew that they were in last place. They knew that they were out of it. And he said, we all just kind of looked at each other and said, like, what do we have to lose? Like, let's just go out there and play our game and show them that we can do this. Like, they had that, who cares about, like, making the playoffs? Like, this wasn't our season. Like, this isn't on us why this team is in last place. So let's go out there and show them what we got. Why not? Why don't we do that now? Who cares? Like, wait, you already waved the white flag when you DFA'd Rich Hill. Like, not like Rich Hill was like some big get, but
no, but it was symbolic.
Yeah, that was the tipping point of like, we're going to give another guy a look.
We're giving up.
Yeah.
We're giving up. So the one thing I will say, and I don't even remember, but I know the rules have changed with regard to September call-ups. Mm-hmm. So you can't have as many guys in the dugout on the bench anymore.
You have to set a daily 26-man roster.
Yeah, and I don't remember specifically, Jared, when they changed that, but it was within the last 3 or 4 years, I think. So, and it might be this collective bargaining agreement, is when it changed. I'm sure that's when it happened. But there was sort of a reason for you to watch as a fan down the stretch when your team was bad in the past. Now there really isn't. Because I said to you early on, this would have been a good time to bring in Kyle Teal.
Yeah.
Usually you need an extra catcher in the month of September. So why not bring a kid up from AAA, and Teal would have seemed like a logical guy to do it. He's had this meteoric rise through the system. He was drafted a little over a year ago.
22.
I thought he was drafted in 23.
When was the Seattle All-Star game? Yeah. Okay, yeah. So it was 23. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was basically in AA by the end of the season.
Yeah.
And then so it was fast. It was really fast with him. So I'm interested in that kid because it's happened so quickly. Usually that, guys they bump him up a level and they struggle for a little while, and that hasn't happened with him at all. But all that aside, we do want to get to your calls, and I said this to Jared because to me the games are pointless now, painful, and I think, frankly, someone called earlier and asked about the television ratings. The game television ratings are now under 2. In the male demographic, ages 25 to 54, they are a fraction, which is kind of scary. And they've been that way for a while, but not quite this low. So the bottom line is people have lost interest. They've lost interest for a long time. And as Jared pointed out when he came in here today, the first call I've been getting on this program for the last 2 or 3 years, every single night, unfailingly, is Martin in Texas. Mm-hmm. Things are bad when Martin in Texas has given up on you, and I haven't heard from Martin in Texas in weeks.
Hope he's okay.
I hope nothing has happened to him. I will say that up front. But that is where we are with the Red Sox. So 75 and 76, that is so perfect. Exactly where they were after 151 games a year ago. Tell me why. I have gone into the last 3 or 4 off seasons, Jared, thinking it was going to change during the winter. Tell me why you think it's going to change this winter.
I think Heim was less committed to, verbally non-committal to a monster offseason. I know we had the full throttle BS last winter, but I feel like now is the time, you never want to be told that you're in a bridge year, or you never want to be told that you're in a rebuild. That's what these last 3 years have been. And if they think all these guys are at AAA and performing well, Christian Campbell, Roman Anthony, it's like, okay, now that next wave is coming, and this is the wave. It's not like you're waiting for the guys after them, like this wave of Rafaela and Casas and Duran. It's like, okay, these are guys, but we're waiting for those guys, and these guys are the ones that are probably going to be here next year and the year after. I don't think that next year is the go for it year, but you and I had the conversation about how John Lackey was the example. They signed John Lackey in free agency going into 2011, but it was 2013 that they won it all. It's like, you don't need to have this monster offseason and then go for it that following year. You can kind of pick and choose your spots and build as you go. I think the next 2 years are going to be that, but you need to be able to sell high with the prospect capital that you have right now to bring in that frontline starting pitcher. You cannot go into next year being like, Lucas Giolito is our opening day starter, or Brian Bayo is our opening day starter again. You need the guy. And there's also that adjustment period too. I remember when Josh Beckett came in 2006, he led the league in home runs. He wasn't great in 2006, and then he was runner-up for Cy Young in 2007. So if next year is the year where you're starting to put the pieces together, and that requires external pieces coming in, I'm fine with 2026 being the year where you're just all out going for a World Series. But start to give me those pieces in 25. Call up the Teals and the Roman Anthony. Let them get adjusted. You look at someone like Jarren Duran. It took him 3 years to get acclimated to the big league level before he became this, fourth place, I'm assuming, finish for MVP. It took him a few years to struggle at the big league level, find himself, adjust to the adjustments to him. It's not going to be this overnight thing. Again, to reiterate, you don't have to have this monster offseason, but you need to get some of the pieces this winter.
Okay, so, and look, I'm going to put this another way because I think I know what you're getting at. If they've been doing this rebuild, let's call that the foundation, you're now ready to start building the next floor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, is that a good way to put it?
Yep.
And then, and keep adding and get to the point where in the next couple of years, you are championship caliber again. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that I get. Let me tell you what worries me. I wanted them to start this last offseason. I thought they were at that point now. Or a year ago. I wanted them to put in some of those pitching pieces early so that when they brought these kids up, the transition that you're talking about with Josh Beckett or, and let's just say Yamamoto because that's an easy one. Okay, but take your pick. Imanaga, Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery. Those guys are here. You're already competitive and above 500. And then you're adding in the younger guys. They are being introduced into and acclimated into a successful operation. And now as they grow, they can start out hitting 7th. They can start out hitting 9th, whatever. And then as time goes on, you increase the workload and the expectation on them. And now you're in business.
Right.
So I thought last year was going to be that year. There was a lot of pitching on the market last year. And they didn't get any of it, really. So now I feel like they're a little bit over a barrel. Now, here's the good news. And if you remember, and again, I'm talking to the listeners now, to you, Jared. But if you listen to this program, I said a year ago, get these guys in place and again, integrate the younger players. The thing I was fearful of was that there were a lot of teams looking for pitching because it was high-end pitching. So what if the Mets were willing to pay or the Dodgers and the Yankees were willing to pay? You know, were you going to be able to outbid these teams for the services of these players? And the answer was no. They weren't able to. Now, I don't think that those teams are all necessarily going to be on the same pitchers anymore. So, particularly by trade, if there is a deal to be made, the Red Sox should be in a good spot. They have prospects to trade. They don't have pitching prospects to trade, which scares me a little bit. But they should be in a good spot. They should have money to spend. And they shouldn't have a lot of competition there because a lot of these teams spent a year ago. Mm-hmm. And so I'd like to think the field is thinner than it was in 2023. You follow me? Mm-hmm. Am I nuts to think that?
No.
I think a lot of fans have had their hopes up the last couple of off seasons, and nothing has happened, Jared. And I think now they look at it and said, well, you know, why should I believe
Yeah,
that?
I don't trust you. But it's a new regime. And I do think all the sentiments behind John Henry saying, at least privately, I'll spend when I feel like it's the time to spend. Like, I'm not going to just, in 2015, drop $95 million on Pablo Sandoval and whatever on Hanley Ramirez. What was it, like $110 on him? Like, we were spending just to spend. We weren't ready to win yet. Like, that wasn't the time. And ultimately, those players had nothing to do with the 2018 World Series title that came in at 3 years after that. I do think that once, you know, these guys start to come up and he starts to see like, hey, we have a nice homegrown, cost-controlled team, like that's when you start to sprinkle in some free agent spending. I call me an idiot if you want. I still believe that that's the plan and that's what's going to happen.
Well, and deep down, I do too, because that's what I want to believe.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I want to believe. I'm just saying what has happened hasn't given people a lot of faith. The only reason the television ratings are irrelevant to me, this team's bad. Of course, people aren't watching. It's been this way for a while. I think they've lost a lot of people. I think the Red Sox have lost a lot of fans that used to believe no matter what. Mm-hmm. And some of those people, I don't know if I would call them the diehards, but I would call them hardcore, like foundational fans, have lost hope and lost faith in the organization. And somewhere along the line, that's got to change if the Red Sox are going to become something again. So anyway, that's where we're going to start. 617-779-0985. See a bunch of you already lined up. We'll get to your calls. I also have another question for Jared, which spins off of something Alex Cora said last night after the game. We'll tell you what that was when we come back on the Baseball Hour.
first time in over 3 months. How much is that just kind of hurt?
It sucks, we got three ways: be average, below average, or above average, right? And right now we're below average, right? And like I've been saying all along, it's not lack of effort, right? It's not happening for us right now. Today, like I said, 0-2, we got burnt at like damage on 0-2 pitches with 2 strikes. We didn't execute. It was just a bad one tonight.
Alex Cora post-game after last night's loss. Misplay by Tyler O'Neill in the 7th or 8th inning. I don't remember which. They were already down 5-3 at the time, but it was kind of a symbolic moment for me. Took a dive at a fly ball. It wasn't an error, but it was a misplay. Bounced over him into left field. 3 runs scored. Now it's 8-3.
I can't believe he won a Gold Glove.
I know. It's a joke, isn't it?
Cannot believe it.
It's a joke.
Did he win multiple? Did he win 2?
I think he did.
That's insane.
So he's just one of those guys that I look at and say, well, that's who you are now. Listen, Tyler O'Neill, if you have a really good team, is fine. He's your number 7 hitter.
Yeah, number 6.
Right, fine. No problem. But if he is a guy that you're relying on to produce middle of the order, hold the middle of the order spot, which effectively he is.
He's been great offensively. I have no complaints other than, the whole he's better with the bases empty than with runners on type deal. That's kind of nitpicky, but the OPS, the homers, yeah, I love it.
But he's just not a centerpiece guy.
No.
You know what I mean? Again, if you have a terrific team, then Tyler O'Neill's fine. No one's bitching about Tyler O'Neill. To me, he embodies sort of what they've become, and that part frustrates me. But Cora said there, again, 3 options. You can be average, above average, below average, and now we're below average because we're under 500. They actually have an outside chance of finishing last. It's unlikely. It's unlikely.
Sucks.
I know. No, I'm not telling you it's likely. But let me ask you this scenario, or let me ask you this question rather: does any part of you want them to finish last again?
I don't care. I'm going to go back to the conversation that I had with Devin Marrero last night because I said as a position player, once you guys know that you're not making the postseason, because you're playing Tampa right now. I think Tampa's a game behind you.
Correct.
So they could, tie you, potentially leapfrog you. Now you're in 4th place. I said, do you guys care? 3rd place, 4th place, doesn't matter. He's like, no. Once
you're eliminated, you're eliminated.
Yeah, once the postseason's not happening, it's kind of just about go out there, play good, so that you get paid more at the end of the day. That's really what it becomes at that point.
So here's what I don't want. Let me tell you why it wouldn't kill me if they actually just lost out and finished last. Because what I don't want to hear is, we finished with a winning record. We got a little bit better.
Made improvements.
Right. I don't want to hear that.
They didn't. Smart Red Sox fans will tell you that they're no better than they were the last 2 years. We got back. The fact, we have, a week and a half left of the season, and they have the exact same record that they had last year. I don't care what the last week and a half says. If they finished 2 or 3 games above where they finished last year, do I feel any better going into the offseason than I did last offseason? No. It's the same to me. I've said this a million times. 2022, 2023, 2024, I will look back on that as just one long season of mediocrity. It's one long season to me. There's no you improved here and there and there. It's no, it's all been the same.
Yeah, and I just don't want to be fed the bull crap. I agree with you that most fans would see through it. What difference does it make? You finish 5th, you finish 3rd, but either way, you're a game or 2 over, a game or 2 under. You were never really in it down the stretch. And so, I just don't want to hear the propaganda and the bull crap, and I know that I'll get some of it. I don't want to hear it. They're in the same spot. To me, this has been going this way basically for 5 or 6 years. 2021 was the exception. I'll grant you that. And even then, it took a borderline miracle in the final weekend of the season to get in the playoffs that year because they kind of blew it in the second half.
They were mediocre in the second half, yeah.
So, now look, they won the plan over the Yankees, then they beat the Rays, and then all of a sudden it's okay, here you go. They're up 2-1 on Houston, and they ended up losing in 6 games. But nonetheless, that was a fun run. It was a fun run. That's it. Since the start of 2019, that's all a Red Sox fan has had, is that one little stretch. Paul is in Rhode Island. Paul, go ahead.
Thank you, Tony. I know I'm not a big baseball guy, but I love your show. Tony, I just wanted to say that, you know what? I just want to think that these Red Sox players, they make their money. They tease us in June and July, and we make, what? Nothing. What do we make? $60 to pay the pocket car. But imagine that if I could have that guy King from
San Diego, and get rid of Casas. He's a mope at the plate. Am I using the wrong word? No, Paul,
the
that's
guy's
okay.
a mope at the plate.
Yeah, Paul, I'm going to let you go just so we can move along because we have other people who want to get on. But let me ask you about Casas because there was a Kenny Rosenthal report last week.
Yeah.
And he just sort of threw Casas' name out there, moving Devers to first base. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's anything to that,
yes.
and would you do it?
Yes and yes.
Okay, go.
Yeah, I think, we've talked about this before, how it works in the journalism industry, where I think it came from the Red Sox. I think that they wanted to kind of put that out there to gauge what the reaction would be. They're in a place right now, and you talked about this earlier with the fan base, and they're tuning out, and people are losing interest. And a lot of times, like, I've talked to people around my age, maybe between my age and about 10 years older, where they're like, I used to love the Red Sox so much, and it faded off, and I haven't paid attention since 2018. It's like, well, the common denominator there is losing. That's what's driving these people away, and they may never come back. So I think once the Mookie Betts trade happens, that turned a lot of fans off, and they were like, I'm done until they do something amazing and spectacular that brings me back. With this Casas thing, I think that's the Red Sox looking at the offseason, looking at the left-handed bats that they have, knowing that they have to deal from that, and putting it out there to be like, what's the reaction going to be? Engaging that. And if it's kind of like, I understand it, we love Casas, great personality, but we got to do what we got to do. If we're going to win a World Series, we need pitching, and we have to deal from a pool of talent. And he's one of the guys on the list. I don't think he's the only guy, but I think he's a guy, and he might be one of the guys that they prefer to move because they may not see him. The injuries and all that. Like, he has been, I don't want to say injury prone, but he does have an injury history for sure.
So I look at some of the stuff over the last couple of years, and sometimes I feel like they are trying to tell us that in some ways they find Casas to be, I don't want to say uncoachable, but resistant to methods that aren't his, okay, which is really uncoachable, but I'm trying to be nice. Do you sense any of that?
Yes. Yeah. I think that there's frustration maybe with coaches, more so because, and I think this was reported last year, maybe, that there was a story about how
his fielding.
Yeah,
you remember this?
Yeah, that he would be working on plays that maybe happen once every 2.5 months defensively, and the coaches are like, "Why are we not working on the routine plays? Like, let's work on the things that we know are going to happen tonight." And they're going to happen tomorrow night and the next night. Instead of being like, hey, I'm working on this play where I'm going to go climb the tarp and see if I can dive into the stands like Anthony Rizzo. Stuff like that, where let's use logic here. Let's listen to the coaches here and be like, this is going to help you. Some of the stuff that he does, it's just like, that's what makes him comfortable. People, I don't know, it's stupid when people get him on him for like the sunbathing and all that and the yoga and the it's like, if that's part of his process, he's not hurting anyone, who cares? But when it comes to defensive work, let's work on the plays that we know we're going to see tonight instead of the spectacular play that maybe comes around once in a lifetime.
So this is what I think is probably, if anything is, I say irritated them or raised flags with them, to me, that would be it. The tanning in the outfield.
Who cares?
No, again, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's him sort of calling attention to himself. And I think that is sort of what drives his unwillingness to practice the routine play. He wants to distinguish himself. So I got to go make the great play. I got to go, like you said, climb the tarp and dive into the stands. Well, just make the play that's there. Make the play that's there. Make that play. And so there is something about his personality that I think irritates them. Quickly, Alex in Cambridge. Good, Alex.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things talking about Casas is that since he came back is when the Red Sox started to go down. We had that good pickup of a first baseman that you have to let go because you had two left-hand first basemen, the Hamilton, what's his name?
Dominic Smith. Yeah.
But the other thing is, I think the peak of the Red Sox was when Duran won the MVP in the All-Star game. After that, they've done nothing in the second half.
Okay, so look, yeah, I mean, his comment line said the young guys are tired. Maybe. I don't think that's it. I think the biggest thing is they're pitching crapped out. Do you think there's any connection to be drawn between Casas showing up and them going downhill?
No, I think that if you're going to make any connection there, it's losing Dom Smith.
Yeah,
more so than gaining Tristan Casas.
No, I don't think there's a direct line to be drawn there either. I mean, the Smith part of it maybe feels like a popular guy on the team.
Yeah.
Guy who's been around a little bit and certainly gave him a stable presence.
You know what it is, Tony? And this is kind of one of those things that they really need to address this year on a broader topic. But the pecking order in that clubhouse, where there are guys that other organizations are saying, that's the guy everyone's looking to. What? Like, they don't have that proven veteran to knock everyone else down a peg. It's kind of like you've got like 4A guys that are walking around like, I'm the man. It's like, wait a second. Like back in 2018, if you had a Rick Porcello and a David Price and a JD Martinez and all these guys over here, it's like the guys that are walking around like they're the cat's ass on this team, you just got knocked down so many pegs. They need that. Like, they need to bring in these veterans that have been there and done that. There's no one in there that has been there or done that. They've got zero guys like that.
And see, this is why, again, to me, they needed to start putting some of those pieces in place last offseason.
Yeah.
Right? This is about signing those veteran guys that have pedigree and that walk in and change the culture of a team and change the whole dynamic.
And Adam Duvall's not that guy. No disrespect to Adam Duvall, but like that was kind of the plan last year. Is like, hey, this guy's won a World Series. He's 34 years old. He's kind of on the way out. Like that. It's like it's nice to have that guy, but is Adam Duvall walking into the clubhouse and everyone's going like, oh my God, wow, like we got the guy. Like, no.
Justin Turner had some of that.
Yes, he did.
Right? He had some of that.
Yep.
But this is what I'm talking about. Build. You got to build sort of a winning structure that the young guys then come into. You know what? I'll share a quick story with you when we come back.
What a tease.
Because it relates to this topic, and it's something I think totally applies. Okay. Kevin Majori's Get Your Headlines here. Don't go anywhere. I see you all lined up. Hang right there. We'll come back and talk to you and to Jared Carrabis on the Baseball Hour.
Sports Hub Headlines.
Patriots and Jets kick off Week 3 of the NFL season tomorrow night at MetLife Stadium. Patriots rookie Caden Wallace will be the starter at left tackle as Darian Lowe is out with a knee injury. Sidy Sow and O'Shane Zimenez are also both ruled out as well. A little NFL news. Green Bay Packers quarterback Jordan Love returned to practice for the first time since his knee injury in Week 1 in Brazil. His status...
going to get right to your calls here. Let me just do two things quickly. I neglected to do this at the beginning of the program, but Jared Carrabis is presented by Blue Moon Belgian White. Be sure to relax and enjoy the ball game with Blue Moon Belgian White. Blue Moon, born in a ballpark, brewed for baseball. Second, I said I had a little story. I'll make it quick. That, Jared, like you, I've spent a lot of time over the years in baseball clubhouses. I've seen different dynamics. I'm just talking about the culture around the team, okay? And what it's like in the clubhouse and what environment young guys, when they come up, are coming into, what it's all like. When I first started covering the Red Sox, they were in a stretch where they had not won anything in 86 years. Okay, and this goes back in the early and mid-'90s and really lasted for almost 10 years. And what I saw, particularly at the beginning, was young guys would come up from the minor leagues, be terrified to talk. The veterans had this attitude in the clubhouse of, they treated the minor leaguers like children. They are to be seen and not heard. When a young guy was doing an interview with a member of the media, the veteran guy would be peering over his shoulder, listening to everything he said. It was a very distrustful culture because they hadn't won anything in so long that the players didn't trust ownership and management. Ownership and management didn't trust the players. The veteran guys didn't trust the young guys. It was toxic. Mm-hmm. It was bad. It was bad. Then they started to win. Pedro really changed everything, but when they started to win, and then 2004 happened. And I asked you this right when we went into the break. Dustin Pedroia was drafted in 2004. Mm-hmm. Dustin Pedroia never really spent a day in the Red Sox organization that all those guys I covered in there, back in the 90s grew up in. He grew up in a totally different environment where the Red Sox were winners. They had a culture of this is how it's going to go. Young guys would come up and were protected by the veteran players and by management. And I mean the manager and the staff. They were put into positions where nothing was expected of them at the beginning. They were shielded because we had a good team. We knew how to win, and we were going to develop the player at the same time. They were able to do both. It is critical for those young guys when they come up to be in spots where not a ton is expected of them. Really important. And it makes all the difference in the world. I'll even say that to a large degree, John Lester, who was drafted in 2002, I think it was.
Yep, first pick by the ownership group.
Okay, so by the time, and a lot of it began with the new ownership, but the Red Sox were pretty good in 2002. 2003 and 2004, they started to really ascend. But the whole vibe around the team changed when they had winning veteran players on the roster. Everything then just kind of fed itself. They've lost that. They've lost it. They got to find a way to get it back. So that's just my little preaching. Alex and Alan, rather, in Florida. Get Alan. Alan, you there? All right, Alan not there. We'll move along.
He gave up.
Pete in Boston. Pete, go ahead.
Hi, I just had a question. I think I'm right, and I'll make a quick point after. But if they bring those three up after September, that date, it doesn't count towards their 6-year to arbitration. Is that correct?
I think that is right. I don't think September counts as service time, but they got rid of some of that.
It doesn't.
Yeah, but Pete, they also don't allow you to bring up as many guys anymore.
I know, but you're not going to win it this year. Bring those three up. You have a catcher, a shortstop, and a center fielder that could be making league minimum for 3 years, $740,000. That's the future of this team.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I let you go. And Jared, do you think those guys are ready to be here?
I would say no. I don't know. I think because now it's you talk about like protecting these guys. What if you call those three guys up right now and then your lasting memory over the offseason, you want to go into this offseason and be like, well, 2025, things are going to be different. What if they come up here and they all suck? And it's just like, oh, that's a little sour finish to the season.
So this is another part of the problem for me is when they get here, if there aren't veteran guys around them that are carrying the load, now you're putting the pressure on them to be saviors.
Right. Well, they're already doing that. To your point about bringing them up, protecting them, expecting nothing of them. Right now, everyone is expecting them to be the saviors of the franchise. They know that too. Like I've interviewed all four of the big four now, and they are all well aware that that's the expectation when they get up there. Thankfully, they embrace that, and I think they're excited about that. But who's to say what they're going to be when they first get here? There's been plenty of examples. You mentioned Dustin Pedroia. He sucked in 2006. Like, people wanted Alex Cora to be the starting second baseman in 2007. Pedroia then wins the Rookie of the Year and the MVP of the year after that. But yeah, like, it's not always instant success. It's rarely instant success. Who's the one superstar? Like, I think Juan Soto, a generational guy who's about to make $500 million this winter, is the only guy that I can think of that was highly touted, came up, and just superstar immediately. Who else can you think of that was like that?
No, not many.
Yeah.
Yeah, not many. I mean, it doesn't happen that way. It's unfair to the player, too. And the other thing is, like, the Red Sox are sort of bringing them in bunches. They're bringing them together, the three of them. That's what I mean by bunches. It's not going to happen that way when they come to the big leagues. I mean, they're going to come one at a time.
Yeah.
You're not going to bring, I don't think all three of them are going to make the club out of camp. And then when they're promoted, it's going to happen piecemeal. Brandon in a car. Brandon, what do you got?
I just got two quick questions for you guys. What's the ceiling of Roman Anthony, and then all the lefties in the lineup? Is it really that big of a deal that people are making it? If these guys can hit lefties, I don't think it's that big of a deal in the long run.
Okay.
Thanks, boys.
Jared, go.
Well, they can't hit lefties. They suck against lefties, so it does matter. Roman Anthony's ceiling, to me, talking to his peers, talking to people who have coached him, they all think that it's all legit. I remember when Yoan Moncada was the top prospect in the Red Sox organization, and you would talk to some people, and they're like, well, let's pump the brakes. Like, number one prospect's great and all, but he has this flaw and that flaw. With Roman Anthony, I'm not saying he comes without flaws, but you've got 6 top prospects. You have 6 Red Sox prospects in the top 100. They talk about Roman Anthony like if you could go higher than 1, then he would be there. That's intriguing to me. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm a talent evaluator. I'm not. But talking to people who are talent evaluators, they seem to put him in this
unique class.
Yes.
Elite class.
Like, there is a gap between him and, like, the other guys.
Superstar.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Superstar. Dave and Braintree. Dave, what do you got?
Tony, so to follow up on what he said, they got a ton of left-handed hitters. I agree with you. I've heard you say in the past that they got to trade a lot of them, hoping for some pitching. I'd love to see a Tristan Casas. I don't think you're going to get as much value for him because I know he was injured, but he had an off year. Maybe you can capitalize and get like a Spencer Torkelson, who's a right-handed bat that had an off year too. And one quick question for you too. What happened to the general manager's position? It seems like all these guys are VP of baseball operations. There's no general manager anymore.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
So, Dave, they changed the title. There were still GMs, but it's really just alphabet soup more than anything. There's the GM
Chief
was
baseball officer.
Yeah, the
president of baseball operation. It's all the same thing.
Right. They used to call the chief baseball guy the GM. Now they call him something else, and the guy who used to be the assistant GM is the GM.
Yeah.
Right? They just changed titles. It really the jobs are still generally the same. I'll just add quickly because you mentioned that is all the fact that they're all left-handed an issue. If they could all hit lefties, I would say no. I mean, as long as they can hit, they're
not even letting Casas see lefties anymore.
Okay, right. So this is the issue. And you add positional redundancy on top of it. And for example, let's just mention second base, which has nothing to do with left-handed. Vaughn Grissom's a second baseman.
Yep.
Christian Campbell's projecting to second base. Mm-hmm. Mikey Romero might be a second baseman.
Mm-hmm.
And who am I leaving out that's on the team now?
Valdez.
No. Who did I say? I said Romero, Grissom, Christian Campbell, whatever. Oh, they just moved Rafaela there. They're playing Rafaela at second base now.
They're not looking long-term there. That's not a solution.
Okay, so like, what are you going to keep them all?
Can't.
Like, some of those guys got to go. Mm-hmm. Maybe 2 of them. Like, let alone 1. You're going to have to cut bait with some of these players. Corey in Rochester and Tristan Casas. Good, Corey.
Hey, guys, just a quick thought on Casas. I think an important thing to consider as well is when Alex Cora decides that he's over your act, that's usually it for you. We saw it with Verdugo. We saw it with Chaim Bloom in part. We've seen the writing on the wall for Casas now. So I think that's something to really think about moving forward as well. And now, his name gets brought up. It could be it.
Okay. Let me bring in one more Casas call, Jared, and then
we'll
respond.
Great point by Corey, though.
Noah in Kansas City on Casas. Go ahead, Noah.
Hey there, Mazz. Yeah, so just wanted to bring up, I think easily this Red Sox team this year, instead of being 75 and 76, I think right now we'd be in the mid-80s if we had Hunter Green. I want to trade Casas, ship him off, get him out of here. Maybe Duran, too. Get a veteran in the offseason like Paul Goldschmidt for first base, maybe for just a year, a real leader in that clubhouse, because I'll tell you this, Raffy and Story should be those leaders in that clubhouse, and they're not. And so that's not going to change. Raffy isn't going to become a leader. We see him. He's basically a man-child. We need to get real leaders in that clubhouse. Thanks.
Okay, and so go back to the previous call. What did he say that you liked? Casas?
Yeah, like when Cora says you're done, you're kind of done. Like, that's kind of true. I mean, I don't know. We talked about. Did we mention the Cora comments last week when he was saying he made like a kind of like a
snarky his remark. Mental swings.
Yeah, he's like, you're gonna have to ask him if he's still tired from his mental swings. I don't know, because I know that like Cora, at least last year, big fan of Casas. Like he follows his brother Gavin at where does he go? UNC? No, USC. And he seems to be a big Casas fan. And then this year, the tone has changed a little bit this year. I'm trying to read between the lines. Maybe I'm reading in between the lines too much. But it seems like it changed a little bit this year. And when he's out on you, I mean, he was out on Verdugo, and he was gone right after that. So
we've played that comment about Casas this week. We'll play it again when we come back just so you can hear it and everyone else can hear it one more time on the Baseball Hour.
Stay tuned for more of the Baseball Hour.
Missing almost 4 months, Casas just got back, right? But having to sit last night, how much you think watching the game kind of from the sideline kind of benefits him?
Well, it depends how many swings he took mentally in the dugout. He might be tired, but just watching the game from that end is always good. And then I had a good conversation with Tristan after Sunday, and just he was walking me through his approach. You know how he felt when he went to Baltimore, where he was swing-wise, and when he was trying to accomplish. One thing I told him, man, like, you're a good hitter. Sometimes, just keep it simple, right? See the ball, hit it. That's the best approach for him. So hopefully we get back to that. I think he's been trying to accomplish a lot of things in every at-bat, and at the end, it's not happening for him. But it's not lack of thought, not lack of process. It's probably too much of that, right? And hopefully we see the ball, hit the ball today, and we have a good one.
Interpretation is it's playful, but that it comes from a place of annoyance, but that it's not serious.
Yeah. I mean, again, he lightened it up for sure.
Yeah. But he'll throw digs and he'll lighten it up, but it's like it comes from a place of I meant it, but I'm not that mad.
Right. Yeah. You and your mental reps.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Taking your mental swings.
Yeah.
Tell you what, Tristan, see, this is how I would interpret it in sort of dramatic, Felger and Mazz 98.5 terms.
Mm-hmm.
How those mental reps coming? Good?
Yeah,
How those working out for you? Good?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you're 2 for 30 in the last 12 games. So maybe, tell you what, keep it simple. See ball, hit ball. You have ability, hit, stop overthinking everything.
I think the thing with Alex, too, is he also is very online. So he sees what is playing in Red Sox Twitter. And that was one of those things that got a lot of play. The mental swings, he saw like a lot of people were paying attention to this. So he kind of makes reference to it as like a nod to the community. He'll do this stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like, just letting you know that I'm aware of it. And anyway, well, we got what here, Jared? One more week after this one.
Yep.
Right?
Put a bow on it.
And then we're going to do a season wrap-up show, I think, after the season ends.
I'll be here.
So there's about 10 days to go in the season, 11 games left. 75 and 76 on their way to 78 and 84.
Been saying that since April.
Feels that way, doesn't it? Well, thank you as always.
Hey, thank you, Tony.
Always a pleasure to have you here.
It's good to see you.
Kevin Majori, we'll have your headlines here. Joe Murray's got you for the rest of the night. Catch you on the baseball. Oh! Programming note. No baseball hour tomorrow night.
Can't top this show. Shut it down.
Felger and Mazz done at 5:30. Patriots pregame taking you right into the Patriots and the New York Jets. Right here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. That's tomorrow night. We'll catch you tomorrow at 2.
From the Town Fair Tire Studios, the Patriots.
Into the end zone.